shirt. But it was, yeah. Because his Instagram is awesome. If you're not following Jason's Instagram, like it's so good. Oh, can you hear me?
Is it okay? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So I think what I'm going to do, I always have a handy dandy stack of random books that I pulled from my bookshelf because I do like to read a lot. But what I think I'll do, and I'll work those in, I'm going to warn you, I speak like 100 miles a minute. I'll try to talk not that fast, but we only have an hour. So I just wrote down, I know we were like 5 things I'm thinking about right now. And of course, ADHD, I've got 10 things or 12. I didn't count them. So I'm just going to rapid fire, tell you as much as I can about, I don't know, what I've learned along the way. I'm going to start with my story. I'm going to share some of my books, and then I'll make sure that I leave some time for questions. You can ask me literally anything. Okay, here we go. Okay, so about, I guess, well, I grew up in the military. I think that's the first thing that I should say, because I think it really, is foundational to who I was. I think any of our childhoods, that's where you start to get those foundational things. And like, you look back and go, why am I like this? Right. I had a question on stage maybe 5 years ago. Someone said, why do you give? Why do you donate? And I was like, gosh, I don't know. And then I got to come up with an answer on the spot. So I do take a bit more time than I used to reflecting. And I grew up in the military. I grew up with obviously a dad who was serving, and then a mother who at that time, 20 plus years ago, there was no way to really have a job as a military spouse. We moved every 6 months to 2 years. I think I went to 6 different elementary schools. There was no internet. So my mom she volunteered everywhere she went. So I think I got that bug from her, and just a family of service. So that was, I think, my ultimate privilege growing up in a military family. Grew up mostly overseas, ended up in Maryland, and got a political science degree. I thought I would maybe be an attorney. I took the LSAT twice, failed it twice, even though I listened to classical music on the way to the test. I don't know what happened. And then I ended up, I got a master's in national security policy. As I was working to get that degree, I thought I would be an interrogator for the government. I lost my 3rd job in nonprofit. And I was like, I got to pay, like I have so much student loan debt, over $100,000. So that's when I got into real estate 18 years ago. It was the middle of, all the short sales and foreclosures. So a challenging time to get in the market, but also a really great time because I didn't know any better. So that's when I started. I read a book called Up and Running in 30 Days by Carla Cross, which was a phenomenal book. It was very much like the MREA. When I look back, I didn't learn about the MREA till much later. I joined Keller Williams about 13 years ago. So I was already in for a few years. And Keller Williams changed my life for sure. And I think they came at it with a very, very analytical, strategic way of doing business, actually creating a business. Once you're doing enough that you can hire somebody, and we'll talk about hiring, it's time to kind of get those systems in place. And this is the place to learn that. Okay, so first book I'm going to hand you. Anyone who has your first 3, there goes all my books. First 3 years in business, The Hyper Local, Hyper Fast Real Estate Agent. This book was written by Daniel Lesniak. This is an amazing book on advertising, marketing, negotiating, prospecting, just kicking things off. It gives you, I would say, about 3 years of the experience of your first year, because he moved to this area and he didn't know anybody, but he created a pretty successful real estate business in Northern Virginia. I picked my books. And then he meets his wife, woman who would become his wife, and she was like the top agent in Northern Virginia. They got married and created this powerhouse brokerage, and I think they've since moved to Florida. But this book is something I give to all my new agents. Okay, 1 second. Okay, now I've picked up all my books. All right, so I got into real estate, and I actually didn't know that you could cold call. I didn't know that you could buy leads, but I also didn't have any money, so I wasn't going to buy leads anyway. And that book, Up and Running in 30 Days, really talked about forming relationships. So I made a very basic plan. Okay, I guess in general, I just need to let people know I'm in real estate. Nobody was really, at least here in DC, they were not really using Facebook sort of strategically to get clientele. I was lucky in that I was 29 years old when I got into real estate. And so the average age in my office was somewhere around 50. And they hadn't really jumped into that Facebook. They would always say like, "God, why are you wasting your time on there?" So, and I get it. I'm probably like that person now with TikTok, and I'm going to be shown to be wrong on that. But anyway, whenever I learned something, I would just post it on Facebook. Whenever I was in a home, at an open house, doing a showing, I would get there a little early and take pictures. So I was really providing social proof to people that I was busy. So I knew, and then when I would learn, like I had a low appraisal, and I'm like, if you ever are in a situation where it was never the first time, right? I always tell new agents, never say first home you've sold or first home that you've listed. Nobody wants to be the second one. Like that's alarming. So just kind of create the perception that you know what you're doing already. Some people will think you have a license, you know everything. That's great, right? But some people will look through that and go, oh, they just got started, right? So you want to just provide as much social proof as possible. And even for experienced agents, I think when it comes to social media, if you guys remember, if you were here during COVID, it was like everyone posting about selling. It was like sold a home, sold a home, sold a home. And then the COVID bubble popped, essentially, still doing pretty well, right? But and no one was posting anything because people weren't selling. It was just like things just slowed down. And it's during those times where you really do want to post, like create content, right? Create the perception of busy, let people know your knowledge. The littlest thing can provide content, right? A house just came up for sale, this luxury house, an issue with a past client from 10 years ago, right? So there's always content to provide. So social media was a big thing for me. I think one of the most pivotal things that happened was about 5 years, and many of you already know this story, so I will tell it succinctly. I went to a women's empowerment event in Baltimore, and it was a girl I had run track with who had run the event, and her husband, who is from Cameroon. And they'd been serving the homeless for quite a few years, feeding, clothing, and realizing that there was no real safe, clean place to take a shower. So they said, we want to build a shower truck for the homeless. They'd already done this in San Francisco. And I thought, oh my God, what a cool idea. I want to get behind this. Again, 5 years in. So like consistent business, not anything crazy, but at least 1 or 2 deals a month I was doing. And I said in every appointment I went into, I said, I'm going to take great care of you. Here's what I'm going to do. Plus, we're going to make a donation to build this shower truck for the homeless. I admittedly did not fully understand what that meant, but I think everyone was excited when we started talking about this vision. And over time, it was manifested. It took 3.5 years of me going into all of these appointments and saying that. We became the largest funder in the shower truck for the homeless. We served thousands and thousands of people. It is no longer. The city is now providing those showers. So the truck didn't, but before that ended, it was a good 5 or 6 years of the shower truck providing showers, which if you've ever been around something like that, it's a lot more than a shower. Like this is life-saving work. We had people show up and say, I wasn't going to be here today. I was trigger warning. They were, maybe going to make sure they were not in existence the next day, but knowing that we were going to show up, that somebody cared enough to bring them toiletries, to bring them a shower, they felt like they could go on. And I never, ever expected anything like that. Another pivotal change for me when I was down there, like I went to this, actually taught a luxury class in Chicago recently. And the big question was like, how do you become a luxury agent? Like, how do you get to this level of, I guess, care and expertise to where you can serve people selling multi-million-dollar homes? And my answer is always starts at the shower truck. One of the things that happened was I was cleaning one of the shower stalls, and I heard some screaming. So every time someone takes a shower, you have to clean the shower. So I go back, and there's probably a few hundred people taking a shower each day. And I go back to see what the screaming's all about. And there's one of our guests, that's what we call the people living on the streets who come take the showers, who's yelling at one of the volunteers. And I said, what's going on? And he came back at me with this really aggressive response with a bunch of curse words. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, we're just here to serve you. And he said, F you. If you weren't here, somebody else would be. And at that time, I looked up at the shower truck with our logo on it. And I thought about all the time we'd spent, all the work we'd put in to this, all the money we put into this to make it happen, and thought in my head, actually not. And then I thought, oh, he actually probably hasn't eaten in a few days. He didn't come from, a air conditioned home because it was August. He slept on concrete last night. So thinking about my privilege and where I had come from, and I said, you're right. Can I take you to your shower? So I took him and he came out like a completely different person, which is what happens when people come out of that shower truck. So that really was that was a change for me and how I was as a person, how I led, gave me a lot more grace and compassion. I have many, many, many stories like that. And the shower truck gave me all those things. So that's just kind of a little bit of how we got started. Since then, we have built a school for girls in Kenya. We've built probably a dozen wells. We do a lot with veterans and kids. We just exceeded $1 million in donations to charity. We also raise money on the side too. So we can get to all that at some point. We will at the end. Actually, I have a special surprise for you all. But before that, does anyone have any questions before I keep going?
I love how you just brushed past, and we've donated $1 million, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's kind of a big deal, girl. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. You know what it is? Sometimes it's like, it's already done. So you're like, okay, what's next? Kind of like
Next
everyone. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, everyone in that room, I know y'all are doing some special things that maybe don't make it into the papers and maybe don't make it onto the stages, but doing really good work. So I hope you'll keep that in mind and feel good about the work that you're doing, because it's really important. Okay, first book, just random, Love Does by Bob Goff. This is a really great book if you just want to get into like a very compassionate kind of, again, like the books I have this idea that like we should read better books. I think a lot of the books that we're expected to read in our industry are like these. It's like it ends up feeling like the same thing over and over again. And guess what? Most books are written at a 7th grade reading level, and most of us have exceeded that level of reading, all of us. So I think what we put into our minds, the things that we think about, if we're always having these simple ideas, and very high level, and it's the same things over and over again, this is the way we're going to analyze things. This is the way we're going to connect with people. So maybe if we're coming up with things that are a little more nuanced, a little more out of the box, a little more out of industry, we could grow our compassion and our leadership. And Love Does is one of those. I will let you know, I am not faith-based, but this does get filed into religion, Christianity, spirituality. So I'm just going to give everybody a heads up on that to be fully open about that. I love this book. It's by Bob Goff, and it really, I think it opened my heart. So I hope that you will like it, and it will help you to lead more with love in your business. This is another one. His name is Clint Pulver. You guys may have seen him. He used to come to the coaching skills camp. Has anyone seen this guy, Clint Pulver, little blonde guy? He had trouble staying still when he was a kid. And so one of his teachers taught him drumming. And so that like got him through school. And then he ended up, I guess, building some organizations. And okay, he's an Emmy Award speaker, AKA the undercover millennial. So I guess he goes into companies now and tries to figure out where the culture is going south and tries to build more connections and just better culture. So people really say, God, I really love it here. And again, this is about changing yourself, right? Which I think is the key to leadership. A lot of times in leadership, we get frustrated. I don't know if y'all have experienced that. You get really frustrated at everyone else. You're like, how can I change this person? How can I change? And most of the time, it's just ourselves who we need to change. And I find inspiration from all places, from, spiritual books to civil rights leaders, all over the place. I think we can find some pretty cool ways to lead differently. I guess a few other books real quick. You're Not Listening. If you're like me and sometimes have a hard time stopping talking, you're that one, right? Who the teacher was like, yeah, but they talk a lot. This is a really great book to help you listen more. It's written really well. And then the final one here, A More Beautiful Question, The Power of Inquiry to Spark Breakthrough Ideas. I think if you have anyone working for you on your team, the more curious we can get, the better we can get at questions. Okay, sorry, I will give you this one too. Coaching Habit, maybe even better than that other one. The Coaching Habit is another good one. I really had a lot of work to do. I realized after hiring and failing, and books really helped to get me through it. And a MAPS coach. Okay, so we'll stop with the books for a second. A lot of what I have learned, like going into Gary Keller's top 100 years ago, what I realized is they're not so focused on strategy and tactics as much as they are on mindset. I mean, all those things are really important too, and those do get discussed, but it was like the mindset of the people in there. And so I kind of wanted to talk a lot about kind of like what goes on. I think about this a lot. I think about it with my own husband, who's like very linear. I am kind of the opposite of that. So I'm like, okay, well, walk me through that, like exactly what's going on in your mind. And I think that's kind of helpful. When you see people behaving or having certain outcomes, it's like, what I want to know is what is going on in your mind. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what I think about often, and maybe it will be helpful. Okay, so part of it is becoming not so reactive, right? A lot of times we're like, okay, this thing happened, now I need to react. This thing happened, now I need to react. And I think the way to kind of stay in this successfully through the long term is to kind of think ahead, right? Like what is happening right now and how can I stay ahead of this trend, whatever that may be? And how will that show up in the kind of programs I'm putting forward, in the way that I'm talking to people when I meet them, in the way that I utilize my social media. And a big part of that is obviously, like we talked about, asking great questions, asking better questions. So here's a great question I think we ought to be asking ourselves pretty frequently. Who's most likely to buy and sell now, and what challenges do they face? The question is, who is most likely to buy and sell now, and what challenges do they face? So you guys are in Ohio. Who's calling you now to buy homes? Who's able? Is it the first-time home buyer who like just got out of college? Are they calling you? Are their parents calling you? Who's calling you to buy or sell?
You're asking. I really do think it is like the older, mid 30s to late 30s, they're starting to get into it.
Okay.
If not, if they're young, it's because we're right by a military base, and that's the only reason. If they're young.
Got it. So you've got military buyers, first-time home buyers in their 30s. So maybe starting a family, maybe. Okay. Who's selling right now? Who can sell right now? What's like the
I have
age?
a lot of people downsizing from like, in their 60s and stuff like that. I have a lot of that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. I think boomers, people whose lives are changing and their needs are changing. I mean, I have a lot of relocation as well, whether it's military or people that are going to work on the base in general that are military. So
That's a lot of great data points. Thank you. I think, yeah, thinking about that, what are their challenges? What are their needs? What are they immediately thinking about? And how can you solve those problems, right? So if we think, get into the mindset of somebody who is downsizing, and is it the actual downsizer who's going to see your Facebook post, or is it their kid? Who are you friends with, right? Who are you in relationships with? Because you need to speak to the people who are going to be your audience, right? So if it's like the parents, like maybe you are friends with the kids, not the parents. And then it's like asking that question of like, have you ever, have your parents talked about downsizing, but they don't know what to do with all their stuff, but they don't know where they'd go next, but they aren't sure what they would net from their home. So think about all the things that person would be concerned about, and then figure out ways to solve those problems. I have a program on my Facebook page. It's called the Smart Move program. Somebody said, I don't know who it was, someone very smart said at some Keller Williams event, whenever you come up with a solution to something, or someone else does and you just want to steal it, first of all, do that. Secondly, put a name on it, a program, right? If you already have, like, how many people, raise your hand if you have contractors that you can call on that you trust. How many of you have a professional organizer you can call on that you trust? How many people, right? Okay, so you've got vendors, you've got movers, you've got this. That sounds like a program. You have something to offer people. Now, you may say every agent has that. Well, not every agent is able to communicate that and ahead of time. So I think one of the biggest things we do, a lot of times we agents will get into trouble because we're like, man, if we're looking at the numbers, we're tracking our numbers, we're getting appointments, like we're getting on deck, so to speak. On deck, is that what they say? But at bats, but we're not winning them because we haven't set the expectation beforehand. What is it going to look like for you as a seller? Are you to expect 15 offers? Look, what we're going to expect is probably maybe 2 showings a week. I mean, I have no idea, right? But whatever that looks like this is what to expect, right? So you set the expectation beforehand. I think a lot of it for people of why they're not putting their home on the market is they're a bit paralyzed by fear. So trying to understand what those fears are, think about what your last seller said to you and the previous one and the one before that, and start to use that for your content and for what kind of programs you could set up. Once you figure out the solutions, don't stop talking about them or posting the problems and your solutions. People need to see things usually 8 times before they'll take action. So trust me, if you think you're doing too much, you're not. Okay. While other agents seem absent or not in the game, others will see you solving problems, so they'll contact you first. Remember, everyone knows 10 agents, so why should they choose you? I think that was a big thing for me too, is realizing. I think about my own neighborhood, again, like kind of a challenge that ends up being an opportunity is I live in a neighborhood with over 40 licensed real estate agents, and 6 of them sell 200 or more homes a year. So I didn't really think about like, oh, how can I beat them? But I did think, how can I stand out among these people? Like, I just moved in this neighborhood. These people have been here for well over a decade selling here. So how can I stand out? And for us, standing out meant being true to ourselves. And that meant leading with helping people, charitable things, community events. We'll speak on that later, but that's something to think about. So there's really no market where you couldn't be successful in. You just have to think about what are the skills, what is the investment that you can make in your community that will stand out, right? Because a lot of times we'll think, okay, I need to find a buyer today. I need to find a seller today. Well, what if you just said, who can I help today? Because if you do that, you're going to be able to grow something a lot bigger. You're going to be able to have conversations with people because not everyone's ready to buy or sell a home, but maybe they know someone who is. But first you have to get into a relationship where you're actually giving them something, right? Being of value to them. All right. Okay. What do buyers and sellers need to think about? Kind of extending off of that first question. What do buyers and sellers need to think about in order to succeed? Is the usual CMA good enough for your sellers? If you think about what most agents do, right? A CMA, sometimes people will print off something really pretty. Sometimes we'll get agents who are new to our team and they're like, oh, I printed off this really pretty CMA. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, I don't know too many sellers that are going to be willing to look through this 8, 9, 10 page. It looks good, but what are you telling me? And you have to know your market, right? We live in a market where every time an agent calls me with a client, they're like, okay, this person has a very dominant personality. They are A-type. They're very impatient. They talk really quickly. They might be a little rough around the edges. That's pretty much every client we have. So I cannot hand them a 10-page, pretty magazine and ask them to figure it out. Like, I need to write up an analysis that they can easily scan and figure things out. So you got to know your market and know what's really going to work out there. And in my opinion, if your market is anything like ours, where it's a slowing seller's market, right? You may still be getting multiple offers. Sometimes homes are sitting for months. It's kind of confusing. It's really important in your CMA to include what's happening right now. So when I ask that question, is the usual CMA good enough? I don't think it is if we're looking backward, right? We need to show what's happening right now and where we see things going. So I think telling that full story, and you're not just doing that work, you're telling people online ahead of time. This is what I think. This is my philosophy around this. This is how I'm helping my clients succeed in this market, because I'm not alarmed, right? Just looking back. So that if they just had someone come to their house and all they did was look at past sales, they see your post and go, oh gosh, I need to call them because this is really important, right? I don't want to be that person who's on the market for 4 months with one showing. Okay. So make sure that you're telling the whole story. And again, for buyers, like, what does it take for a buyer to win or to secure a place and not lose your shirt, right? So I think telling the stories of how you've won in places, maybe you're on the set listing side and you're experiencing what the non-winning buyers offers look like. Tell those stories, right? All these things. You actually have a lot more content than you think you do, I think, in most cases. So just make sure you're telling those stories. All right, another question. This kind of diverges. We're not going to stay on the same topic. Am I who I need to be to achieve what I want in this market? Again, am I who I need to be to achieve in this market? Every time I have felt left behind or frustrated or stalled, I start to look inward and say, who do I need to become next? How do I need to lead differently? So I guess we can pop this book in. It's not 100% related, but it's called Conflicted. You probably wouldn't find it in most American bookstores here. I got this in England, but I think they do have it on any of the big book places. Why arguments are tearing us apart and how they can bring us together. I mean, this is going to cover a lot more than just like simple negotiations, but they tell stories in here. These are really great case studies to help you kind of get through tough conversations. And since we're probably getting more objections before we even get in the door, that's why it matters how you're talking to people in your world. That's how it matters how you're coming across social media. It's good to have books like these so that you can kind of expand on how you're going to manage those objections ahead of time and do it in a way that is, thoughtful, compassionate, intentional. Okay. And actually this book, How Good Humans Sell, this is a really skinny book. And I do judge books by their cover. This is not a great cover, but it is a really good book. And what this book will do is if you or someone on your team is having a hard time asking people for the business, this will help cure you of any problems with that, because it basically reminds you if you have something of value to give, you should give it. Otherwise, you're undermining people's ability to do well, to have a better life. So this helps you get out of that, like, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to nag them. Okay, don't do this instead. Sell better. Okay, so going back to this idea of who do I need to become next? Part of that is hiring, right? If you're doing all the things right now and you're feeling really off balance, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're like, I honestly, Sheena, you said hire. I don't even have time to hire right now. I hear you, but I'm going to show you a simple way that I hire. Okay, that I can figure out somebody. So let's say that you're selling maybe 1.5, maybe 1.5 to 2 homes a year, at least. If you're selling that many homes, you should probably hire somebody. And you don't need to hire somebody for 40 hours. You can hire somebody for 4 hours. That's how I've hired every single person on my team. Every single person on my team is virtual. I was doing that before COVID. Because I only hire military spouses. They tend to have kind of the personality for it because they tend to be, really good with the supporting roles. They don't want to be oftentimes out there selling. That's not everybody, right? That's a generalization, but that's what I have found. It's just such a great workforce because they really do care deeply about the experience that people have. They tend to be pretty detail oriented. They tend to be a really high fit on the KPI, which I do take pretty seriously. But what do I do? So this is what I do when I get overwhelmed or I feel like, man, things are it's too much, or like, I hate this part of the job. I do this. I do this until I get to this point where now my life is I get up in the morning, I take my third kid to school. The other 2 can make it on their own. So I take him to school and then I go work out. I come home and I do a Swahili lesson because I'm learning this new language. And I'll maybe spend an hour or 2 thinking about a new training for my team or looking at data to see where we may be able to improve things. And then I might do a class like this. And then my kids come home and then I might have an event at night. And that is my life. And it is a very good life. So how did I get there? Basically, what I did was this. This is the really simple, maybe not easy way to do it, is I write down everything that I hate doing. And I write everything I never, ever want to do again. And everything that I could pay someone else $20 an hour to do. So I write all that down. And then I estimate how long each of those things take in my life. And you know what you might want to add is like, what else could I be doing? Like what else? Maybe I could up my Facebook game, or I could up my Instagram game, or I could be having more events that don't cost anything. I have 65 events I personally hold every year. More than that, and they don't cost me anything. I can tell you more about that. If I forget, you can ask me. But I want to do more events. But maybe you're like me and you're like, but I don't want to actually create the Eventbrite. I don't want to set them up. I just want to show up. Okay, great. Write that down. Creating events. Okay. Posting on Facebook. Whatever those things are, write down the amount of hours. And then you may have to slice and dice a little, because one thing I'll say is, all our staff is virtual except for our 2 runners, which obviously they are local. In my opinion, the executive assistant is not the runner. You may get really lucky and get a person who can do all that, but I think personality types matter, right? And the person who is feels good about just randomly going to people's houses and can pick up you know, a drop of a dime to go do something like that will be a different personality than the executive assistant who's kind of there as you need them at all times, has certain things they need to do, very detail oriented, different personality types. But otherwise, I think you write it down, and you know, most of the time you're going to have maybe 2 to 10 hours worth of work there. Most of us in the room could probably hire somebody for 10 hours, right, a week. And here's the promise you make yourself. I'm going to be doing more prospecting, right? I'm going to be holding more events, or I'm going to be reaching out to my clientele more. I'm going to be posting on social media more, whatever it is that how you best get business, right? You should be tracking that. Like, how do I best get business? You don't need to keep finding new ways to get business. If you can keep digging deeper into what works, by the way. A mentor had to tell me that. So anyway, write down all those things. Maybe you've got 10 hours of work. Now you know exactly what you need to hire for. Okay, how to hire better. I think one of the mistakes that people make is when they post, they're like, I'm looking for a transaction coordinator. I'm looking for somebody who will take my transaction and be able to take people through contingencies. And people who have never done real estate before are like, I have no idea what you're saying. So, or maybe you're like, you want a nurture person, right? Somebody to reach out and love on your clientele. When you're writing this up, use AI, don't use AI. Think about the person who might be great for this job. It might be your neighbor down the street. Maybe it's a stay-at-home mom who's like, man, I would just love to work 5 hours a week doing XYZ. I just want to like plan your events, or I just want to do your social media, or I just want to put together care bags. I want to reach out to nonprofits, like a different one each month, and figure out how we can get our community together to support that organization. A volunteer day. There are people out there who are just looking for 4, 8, 10 hours. I have found that to be true. But you have to write this advertisement to speak to those people. So it would sound something like this. Like when I found my executive assistant, the title was looking for my next badass executive assistant. And to be fair, I didn't have 100 people apply to that job like I did in the past. Before, it'd be like so many people applied and they have no business. Like there was no personality match. No, you'll get fewer people applying, but there'll be better matches. The person who got the job, their subject line was, I am your next badass executive assistant. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty good. And basically it was like someone who is extremely detail oriented, who weirdly likes working on spreadsheets, who plans their family trips and loves it. So think about the kind of person so that when they see it, even if they've never done that like exact job before, they're like, oh my God, that's me. That is me, right? So you want to speak to that. Most staff for real estate teams are men or women? Women. Did someone say women? Did they say that? Yeah, you said that. Okay. The majority are women. And something to know about women, sort of sadly, but they will not apply for a job unless, most women will not apply for a job unless they have done that job before, or they have done like 75% or more of that job before. That they have worked, you know, transaction management or whatever that industry word sounds like. Otherwise, they won't apply. So if you write this up in very industry terms and not like the sort of personality type or the type of skill set that you need, you will be unintentionally scaring away some really good people. Men, by the way, only have to have done 50% in order to apply. So, but that's just something really important, I think, to know about, you know, the audience. You got to know your audience. And if you can appeal to them, you can get some really great people. And by using that method and using a KPI, I do believe in that. If they look like a good fit on resume and letter, I'll send the KPI. And I apologize, I do not follow it the way we're supposed to, but I will say I do not talk to them if they don't get a high fit on a KPI. I send them a nice message. I know we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to validate. I do validate if it is a high fit. I will only hire them if they're a high fit. They have to be in the green. I'll stop there. Y'all have any questions? Okay. But that's how I hire people in 2 weeks. Yeah. Oh, something? Question?
No, not yet. I don't think so.
Let me see what I've gotten through. Okay, so that's the hiring. If you want to know how to keep people, I love it here. Love does. love your people, make yourself a person people want to be around. This doesn't really fit in anywhere, but it's the prettiest cover. And I told you, I like to judge books by their cover. Great cover. This book, I think it is useful for so many reasons. Okay, what is it book? It says How We Meet and Why It Matters by Priya Parker. I'm sure you guys watched TED Talks. She had a TED Talk. She has worked for like world leaders and all kinds of things. I think she was like at the UN and had to plan how that meeting was going to go down, and thinking about things like, okay, we need everyone to feel good in this room. They're all foreign leaders of the same sort of, the same title, but maybe there's some from countries that tend to feel like they're a little more important, but she didn't want anyone to feel like they were inferior. So it was like, how am I going to set up the chairs for these people? Like things that maybe we just don't think about, right? So she's thinking about these things from like UN meetings to what does it look like when you invite, for instance, she wasn't talking about past clients, but again, we can run parallels here. A lot of us are taught, go have a client appreciation party, right? Invite everybody. We used to do that. We used to have that farm event, which I mean, like, do it if you love it, right? But we had this farm event. It was great. Everyone was like, oh my God, we had such a great time. But there was really no real connecting of people. It was hard to talk to everyone. I felt like people had a great time, but they left. And I don't think they felt like, man, I cannot miss this next year. So, and then I read this book and I'm like, oh, okay, we don't, maybe less time. I'm like, do we have enough forks? Do we have enough of all these like tactical things? And instead we start with a great question, which is how we started this, right? A better question. Why am I doing this? How do I want people to feel while they're here? What do I want the impact to be? And so maybe your event looks like, I'm actually going to invite like the 20 couples or the 20 people who send us the most business, or the people I love the most, who I've served. I'm going to invite them to a special dinner. And those people, because I like them the most, they tend to bring me the business and all the things. We actually are very aligned in values, which means all those people are probably pretty aligned in values. Get them all in a room. That is a benefit to them to be able to connect with people like that. And it kind of protects the space. She talks a lot about protecting spaces, where especially if you're extroverted like me, you might have a tendency to go, everyone come. We're just all going to come together. Whereas you can create maybe a more intimate, intentional, powerful event by protecting the space, maybe making it a little smaller. Bigger isn't always better. So that was a great reminder, not only about client events, but I think even thinking about the meetings we have with our staff, right? Does it look like you sitting in a chair across a desk, like with this physical separation? Maybe you're seated a little higher. What does it look like when you're sitting with your team? Are you all sitting at the same level? Is it always a computer? Are you talking at them? Or is it, we're all coming together and like, tell me, what do you have to share? Let's get started with your opinions. So anyway, that was a really, really great book on that. All right.
Can you tell us more about the type of events you have?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a great question. So I don't like to spend money on certain things, and events is one of them. You do throw a lot of events. I call them meetups. So because thinking about the intentionality, right? I'm not necessarily trying to give people the experience of the hottest event they've ever been to, but I do want to get people into a space where maybe they'll have come out of their isolated house, their isolated position. They'll come out of their loneliness. They'll come out of their, I don't have any friends because I just moved here, right? So trying to cure loneliness, trying to create relationships. I try to create spaces for that to happen. And so I generally do meetups. So it's like low pressure. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. And a few of these events I have every single month. And some of those are book clubs. So I have book clubs that meet. I have a fiction one. I have a fiction and nonfiction. I also have a free yard sale that I do now. It's kind of like a trunk or treat, where people come to a parking lot that I've rented. You pop your trunk and you just give your stuff away. And hundreds of people come to this. and homeowners come, right? And so I'm having conversations with all of them. I'm making connections. I'm getting into contact with them. And I usually will tell them the honest truth is the reason that I thought about this free yard sale for many reasons, that it would really benefit the community. It would help people get the things that they were struggling to afford. It would create community, getting people in connection with each other. But the other thing we were seeing with so many of our sellers is they had too much stuff. And they were paying thousands of dollars to get the stuff out of their house. So why not give them a little leg up, give them an opportunity to start giving their things away? So, and I'll have that conversation with them. And I'll tell you that people remember that. And they do reach out to us very frequently about selling their home because they met us and we were able to give them something before we asked for something. So honestly, I love the yard sale so much, just like all my meetups. I mean, if I were retired, I would do all those things. So it just happens to like, there's a byproduct oftentimes of getting business, but I would do it anyway, even if it didn't, because I love them so much. It definitely gets your name out in the community. We do walks too, so that's another way. But really, I just start once again with that question of who needs help today, right? So what are you seeing in those Facebook groups? What are people seeing they need? What are you experiencing as you're kind of out there in the wild? I recently tried to hire someone for Instagram, like to manage my Instagram, to create like carousels, short form videos, and something else. And I thought every 20-year-old knows how to do that. Turns out that's not true. I interviewed a bunch of people and I was like, oh, wow. The way that these college graduates were coming to the interviews, honestly, complete. And, you know, this is a small, I don't want to say that everyone is like this, but completely unprepared. Not proactive in the way I was asking for things. I'll give you an example. I had said something like, oh, I see, you know, you've created some of these things, but have you ever done a carousel? And she said, yeah. And I was like, okay, I think we was just an email to start. And I thought, okay, well, I'll be in touch. And I thought if it were me, I would have sent a carousel. I would have created a carousel, 5 of them that day and sent it over. I never got anything. So that led me to think like, okay, and I solved that problem by just hired a firm. I hate to say it, but I need that to be done. It was a paid internship I was offering that could go full time. Like you would be hired on if you did a great job in the summer, and it was a paid. And I thought, man, okay, that was a great experience. I could kind of keep thinking that like in this negative way, or I could do something about it. And so we already do a financial literacy class for our community. We do it virtually, kind of just teaching people what we've learned from Keller Williams, from investing in property, budgeting, right? We read this book called Automatic Millionaire, my husband and I, when we were in our 20s. And like that kind of set the tone for how we were going to handle our money. And so we, I just think we all have a lot to share. And so we created a class out of it, a virtual class to help our community. And I've just added 30 minutes on to teach young people how to successfully interview. So I think we got 20 people signed up for the class so far.
Interrupt here real quick. I have a 2 question here. The first is what percentage of your business is coming from these events?
Mm-hmm.
And then how are you in a practical way, you know, taking an event that's non-real estate related, like a book club, and being intentional to get business from that? Like, what are you saying? What are you doing in that meeting? Like practical steps that's going to translate into actual business.
Yeah, good question. So I do think like overall being known is important, right? So like people have their names and faces on bus stops, even in my neighborhood. And so it may be the Coca-Cola effect. If you see it enough, like you'll drink, you know what it is. You just know because you see it everywhere. So there's like almost that trust factor. But imagine getting like belly to belly with people and meeting you, right? And they know you're like, when we go around, we introduce ourselves at any of those events. And I'll say, I'm a real estate agent, right? So that is known. They do sign up via Eventbrite, so I can stay in touch with them. And to answer your question, so I do make it known. I don't put like big flyers up or anything. I never want it to be transactional or feel that way. I certainly wouldn't want any business owner to come at me like that. So I just try to be a regular person, and I never really ask them for anything, right? Okay, I do ask for money for charitable things, but I don't ask them for like buy a home with me or because I think I've had this faith for a while. I think it's because it just seems to work, is like, I just try to help people and make them aware that I am a realtor. Like, I'll add them on Facebook. And if it becomes a time where they have to make a move or know someone who is, they will often get in touch with me because, you know, I am in front of them. I am constantly there in front of them, and I'm genuinely trying to help people. So how much of my business comes from events is kind of a hard number to fully know, because they may have seen my Facebook posts, but maybe haven't come to an event yet. They may have seen my Facebook group, but haven't come, or maybe they have come to that. But I would say we've still never bought a lead or made a cold call. It's 100% by referral. So if that helps, it's just, yeah. But I would say, if, you know, I guess we'll probably sell 230 homes this year, and it's all past clients, 30% agent referrals, or just people that I've met in the neighborhood or nearby.
Tina, I've been told in the past that when you lead generate by doing something that you truly love doing, that's kind of becomes your lead generation. And to your point, you don't have to talk about real estate as they get to know, when you're doing things that you enjoy doing, like book club or garage sale, people are going to start to know that, oh, and it's that reticular activator in your brain that once they hear it multiple times, when they hear real estate, they're going to think about you because they've met you multiple times or seen you many times.
That's right. I think that that's accurate. And I also, like, I have that whole mentality of like no expectations, right? Like there are certainly people in places where they've come to every single one of my things and they go buy and sell with somebody else. I don't hold people to anything. Like, that is not an expectation that I have of like a quid pro quo. That's just not how I operate. I am sincerely doing these things because I love to do these things. I love meeting people. I love book club. I love the yard sale. And it is kind of a beautiful thing that people would choose us. I'm also pretty vocal about my values. I'll say my politics too, which I think is the same thing. And sometimes, you know, once people meet me in real life, they're like, okay, yeah, this is like what I stand behind. This is what I want to support. So even if they know somebody else, I think they know, like, we're going to come with this level of integrity and these kind of values. And if they align, if they don't, they don't, you know, and that may be some reason people may not choose us. But I think you're right. I think being authentically ourselves, really enjoying what we're doing. We have to get business. That's ultimately like that is our primary job of being a realtor, is like, you have to get the business. You have no other problems. You don't have to worry about how to write a contract, how to negotiate a contract if you have no business. So we do have to go out there and meet people. But we can do it in a way that is gracious and enriches the community versus just taking from it, I think. All right, so I think the biggest
Can I ask one question? You said, I sorry, I got here a little bit late. You said you've been in real estate for 10 years, did you say? And then how long have you been doing these events? Like, how many years have you been doing these? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
18 years.
Yeah, about 18 years I've been in real estate. And I would say I've been doing these events maybe 10 to 12 years.
Okay.
Definitely over time. Yeah, it definitely just like kind of grows over time, and you figure out what works. And if it doesn't seem to work the first time, just try it again, try it again, try it again. The first event I was doing was first time home buyer classes in my house, which is like a little townhouse at the time. And then I was going to like public libraries. I mean, homeless people, which I didn't even have like a slide deck or anything. I literally had these big like poster boards, and it would say pre-approval. And then the next poster board would say house hunting. And then I would just speak to it. It was, wow. It was really, so just starting. It's corny or ugly. I want to end with one more thing, and then I can answer questions, and I can stay on longer. I can stay on for 90 minutes. So I won't keep you that long, but if you have questions. One more thing I want to talk about is getting back to the charity piece. If you're doing the kind of work that has no end, which is helping people, which is caring about people, which is going out and going, okay, what does the world need? if you're doing that kind of work, the amount of opportunity, there is no end. There's also no end to the social media content, right? If you're like, what am I going to post today? What if you had a situation, let's say an example, maybe there's a program in Ohio. Let's just pretend that there is a program in Ohio, and maybe that program is called Miracle Makers. Okay, you have this program, and it is a summer program for kids in Ohio who their parents cannot afford to send them to summer camp. And for us, it's like, for a lot of us, it's like summer camp. Okay, like how many summer camps can I fit in for my kids? For a lot of people, it's like, I can't afford this. And guess what? If my kid doesn't go to summer camp, they're just gonna be home alone while I work because I got to go to work. And by the way, if they don't go to summer camp, they don't eat. They don't eat like kids should eat every day, 3 meals. So there does happen to be a program called Miracle Makers in Ohio. And Amy's daughter is working there. And you're awesome, Eliana. And basically, they've got 80 kids on the wait list right now. And you can solve this problem for one child for a donation of $500. So I would say, if you're like, okay, I don't know if I can give that right now, you could start something, maybe make a commitment today that twice a week for the next 4 weeks, you are going to talk about this program and say, hey guys, it's summer. I know a lot of us are thinking about summer camp, so I got to tell you about this program. There are 80 children in our state right here who are waiting to get on this list, and it costs just $500 to send one of these kids, right? Just $500. So if you have it in your heart to give something, like here are the 3 ways that you can help. 1, if you'd like to help, you can send a Venmo of any amount, or we'll get you a link, right? We'll get you the way for that to happen. The second thing is, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell a home, I'm going to make a donation of $100 or $200 for every person who buys or sells a home with me in the next 8 weeks. Or if you refer somebody, I will make a donation. And then the third way is, I don't know. We'll come up with a third, or you can just give 2 ways. Maybe Eliana has a third way that you can support, or maybe just share this link. You can help by sharing this link. And we can really, so now you have content for the next like 4 to 6 weeks, right? Because you're going to post this twice a day. And you want to make sure that you're congratulating people, that you are thanking people, that maybe you're taking from the website and telling stories about what the impact is, right? And always think about the tangible piece. Like if we can even get from the organization, like this is what $25 will do, right? $25 will get these kids food for a week or whatever that looks like. So any amount, you would always say any amount will help. And I guess what I would ask of you guys, I don't usually ask my classes for anything. I used to get paid to do these classes, and after COVID, nobody wanted to pay anymore, which was just fine. But I am asking if you guys in this room might commit to matching the $500 that I just donated to get 1 kid. So if this class could even do 1 more kid, I mean, if you each want to do 1, that would be absolutely amazing. But these kids are just waiting for us to help them. And we do have the power. We have the ability to do that. So I hope you'll give it, I hope you'll consider it. We'll get you the link. But the biggest thing I think to leave you with is that this business offers us the opportunity to do so much more than just buy or sell real estate, for us to move into neighborhoods maybe we never dreamed of, for us to go on vacations we never dreamed of, to provide our kids with lives that we never had. We can create lasting legacy by building things that will be here after we're gone. So it doesn't have to be wells. It doesn't have to be schools. It could be just a kid in your neighborhood who just didn't get a fair shot, and who could actually go to a place that's going to be safe, that will feed them, that will educate them through the summer, and their parents can feel good about it. So if you can make that difference, I hope you will. That's all I got, but I'm happy to stay and answer any questions or handle any grievances.
I have a question. So, in your schedule at the very beginning that you said, I get up in the morning and I do these things, but when in there do you do listing appointments or showings, or do you have a team that does this for you, or how does that work?
Yes, my team does it all. I've worked myself out of the business. Yeah.
Amazing.
So when people call you, you just say, great, Susie Q's going to be showing you a house, or Susie Q's coming to bring a listing presentation.
I do that. Yeah. And I call them my partners because they truly feel they are. Some of the people on my team have sold more homes than I have. I've kept my team really small. I only have 7 agents on my team. That includes my husband. They all do listings. They all do buy. And I will say one thing I had to learn was like, if I want, it's kind of like somebody told me, if you want to start selling $1 million homes, stop posting $200,000 homes. So that was critical, right? Like that magnet. And then it was the same thing about like, of course, people are going to ask for you because you keep putting your face on everything. But if you start putting your agents' faces, if you say like my partner and letting them know about their wins, putting their faces everywhere, they will expect to work with that person. So I really haven't had a problem. I still like every week I'm checking in with my agents, going through the list of people and seeing how I can support. But and now I'm at a different, like you say, like, what are we becoming? I figured out 2 years ago, I'm like, oh, I got to stop treating my agents like they just got here, because they've all been here for a while. So I need to have different types of training. I need to invest in them in different ways and pay them differently, all these different things, different person I had to become to serve them at that level. So to answer your question, I think I answered your question.
Good, thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about your referral business?
Agent referrals?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that started probably 10 or 12 years ago. I guess I'd learned that people were pretty like, oh, I didn't know that people could like sell homes pretty much through like social media, getting out there. The community stuff wasn't as, I guess, established by then. Like that became something that I learned that I enjoyed a lot, getting outside of the screen and like connecting with people. And so I guess someone in New York asked me to come speak. So I came and probably did a terrible presentation. And then I went to a few more places and maybe got a little better. Maybe I didn't. And then I just started offering to go to market centers and teach about this one thing that I knew about. And I would say, if there's anything that you feel like you do better than most people, even if you just sold one house, like, I mean, people who can listen well in this business, that's a rarity. So if you're like a teacher, you're good at teaching people, or if you're good at listening, like create a class on that. It only needs to be 30 or 40 minutes, and then you just answer questions. And so that's what I did. I've probably been to hundreds of market centers, and I think that was one of the ways that I got to be known by people. And then I did go to the Keller Williams events, and they did put me on stage. So I can't say that was, you know, not insignificant, but I think building those relationships through those events, like just trying to give, just like I do in my community. Not everyone's going to use you, but as a byproduct, I think, you know, just being known, and like if values align, they'll call you.
Sheena, it's Laura. You can't see me now because I'm over off to the side, but I want to know, where did you get that wallpaper behind you? Because that's amazing.
Oh my God. It's crazy, isn't it?
And if she's positioned just right, it looks like she has a little contour.
Yeah, when you hold your head just right, it looks like you have little elf ears.
Oh, that's a good one. I have heard that it is all kinds of things people think it is. I won't say it since this is being recorded, but you can use your imagination. It's called joy. Oh my God. When we stop recording, I'm going to tell you guys the story. But yeah, it's called joy. It's if whoever is writing, like, you can text me and I'll try to find it. It was actually really funny. Some of it was ruined because we had a leak here, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out to my husband. Oh my God, it's like they don't sell this anymore. And so he like, I think he spent like $500. Like, he reached out to them and they're like, nope, we've got some still. It's not on the website anymore. And I kept telling him, we don't have any. And then like we cleaned out the basement a few weeks ago. There's a whole roll of extra. So I just didn't realize it was down there.
Good husband. Does anybody have any other questions?
No, thank you for saying what you said from Elena. She's very grateful, and she's been working at this program for a few years now. And if anything, if you guys can help with that, would be amazing.
Awesome.
That's heroic work. Keep going. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. Really appreciate your time today.
All right, guys, call me anytime. Thank you.
Yeah, mega acre.
Bye, guys. Appreciate you.
Bye.
And she is named after Sheena Easton, in case